The empty homes you see represent more than just physical abandonment. They symbolize stories and traditions that were once alive and now forgotten. The images set the stage for our exploration into how global cultural loss has unfolded, often silently. Hi, my name is Dandan Sarla, and today I'll be exploring the topic of global cultural loss. Specifically, I'll be examining how colonization and globalization have contributed to the erosion of cultural identity in communities such as the Abam of Nigeria and the Maori of New Zealand. The central question guiding my presentation is, to what extent have imperialism and modernization contributed to the global loss of cultural identity and traditions? To support my argument to the question is, globalization and colonialism have played a major role in global cultural loss by eroding indigenous languages, traditions, and identities, often replacing them with dominant or hybrid cultures. To support my argument, I will be discussing these two claims. Globalization has weakened oral traditions and native languages, and colonialism has distorted indigenous identities. One major impact of globalization is the disruption of oral traditions. Kalu and his peers from the University of Regina make the connection particularly that globalization and colonialism have disrupted cultural transmission of stories and oral narratives. The loss of oral traditions weakens not only the communal bond, but the traditions that communities uphold. Moving on to the chart, from the International Bulletin of History and Social Sciences, the chart shows the effects of colonial exposure to its relationship with cultural identity, indigenous cultural identity. The chart indicates that there is an inverse relationship between colonialism and indigenous cultural identity. This means that as there is an increase in cultural exposure, there is a decrease in cultural identity, as shown here by the negative 0.12. Anything below 0 indicates that there is a negative proportion. Let's look at two examples. The image in the Maori, this image is a Maori missionary school. And these missionaries discourage the cultural identity of its students. Author Ka'ai Mahuta notes that children were actively discouraged in speaking their native language. And language was one of the main ways, according to the Maori Pākehā oral narratives, that was their signature way of passing down stories and information. In the case of the Abam, Nigeria experienced cultural erosion under colonial rule. Indigenous languages began to disappear, and when indigenous languages began to disappear, storytelling, as you can see in this quote, storytelling in Abam was not just entertainment, it was education, memory, and morality. Education of cultural values and just memory being passed down from person to person also decreased. Moving on to the second claim, we explore colonial powers have rewritten or excluded indigenous voices from historical narratives. According to the Maori and oral and Pākehā written narratives, a college stimulus, Western historians perpetrated colonist attitudes in their so-called objective histories, erasing Maori memories and perception. This connects to the claim as Western historians Western historians would use their point of view instead of taking the point of view of actual tradition. This is similar to the Salinidad and Latinidad quote. These costumes led many mainstream chronicle to mislabel her the Tex-Mex Madonna, as similar as this example highlights how Western narratives distorted and oversimplified rich, authentic identities. Limitations and implications. Cultural identity loss is not universal. Although cultural identity loss did occur across many different areas, it did not occur across all areas, specifically to like Arab areas, as said in according to Kalu from the University of Regina. Resistance and preservation efforts exist. There are right now resistance and preservation efforts exist as Maori Maori people still pass down information through storytelling. Impacts of colonization is complex and multifaceted. Again, colonization is complex. There are many different factors involving the different places. Implications. Cultural preservation is urgent. Globalization needs balance. Reclaiming narratives is empowering. As seen before in the Aban people, it was very important. Oral narratives were extremely important in passing down information to children, as many values were taught through oral narratives. To sum it up, globalization and colonialism have contributed to cultural loss. Recognizing the many problems that have occurred is the first step in preserving what remains. Thank you.
All right, 2 questions for you. First up, how valid and reliable were the sources that you used, and then how do you know they were?
To make sure that my sources were valid, I researched the background of the authors and the universities that they went to, and some were and for example, the information I got on the Aban people, that text was peer reviewed. It was a peer reviewed article, yeah.
And if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct on this?
If I had more time, I wanted to research how food was impacted through colonialism, and what like different, well, like how it impacted, because yeah, that's